In an ancient city surrounded by towering stone walls and ruled by strict laws, justice was considered sacred. People often said the city did not bend for anyone, rich or poor. Yet among its citizens lived a man who seemed to exist outside all rules and expectations. No one knew his real name, so they simply called him the Madman. He wandered through the markets barefoot, wearing torn clothes that flapped in the wind. At times he spoke to himself. Sometimes he laughed for no reason, and other times he stared into the distance as if he were seeing things no one else could. Children ran behind him, merchants mocked him, and travelers avoided him. But despite his strange behavior, there was something unusual about him. Whenever a quarrel broke out in the market, he could settle it with a few words. If two merchants argued over money, he solved their dispute with a clever trick. When someone lost an item, he somehow guessed where it was. Over time, people stopped knowing whether he was mad or wiser than all of them combined. One afternoon, panic spread through the streets. A wealthy merchant's treasury had been broken into, and a large amount of gold was stolen. Guards searched the area and arrested 3 men who had been seen nearby that night. They were brought before the city's judge, but the evidence was impossible to piece together. One witness swore the thief was tall. Another said he was short. Some claimed the thief limped, while others insisted he ran swiftly like a deer. The 3 suspects denied everything, and none of the clues matched. For the first time in many years, the judge found himself unable to make a ruling. The case was taken to the city's governor, a man known for his sharp mind and strict sense of order. He summoned everyone involved, the suspects, the guards, the judge, and held a council inside his grand hall. Yet, even after hours of discussion, no one could point to the real culprit. The atmosphere grew tense. The governor hated unsolved mysteries. A ridiculous suggestion? Or was it? Then, one of the soldiers spoke hesitantly. "My lord, there is someone in the city who solves impossible riddles. The Madman. Perhaps he could try?" The hall erupted in laughter. The idea of bringing a ragged wanderer into the governor's court sounded absurd. But the governor raised a hand, silencing everyone. "Bring him," he said. "If he is a fool, we lose nothing. But if he is not, no one dare question him. The Madman arrives." Moments later, the Madman was led into the hall. He looked around with wide eyes, admiring the columns and lanterns as if he had stepped into a dream. He waved playfully at the guards, then stared at the 3 accused men as if studying their souls. The governor addressed him. "Madman, can you tell us which of these 3 stole the merchant's gold?" The Madman smiled a strange, crooked smile. "Of course, but I do not question people the way you do. I have a game of my own." The governor raised an eyebrow. "A game?" But curiosity won over skepticism. "Very well," the governor said. "Show us your method." The Madman walked in slow circles around the 3 suspects. He didn't speak. He didn't ask questions. Instead, he watched their faces, their breathing, the slightest twitch of their fingers. He paused beside the first man. "You're not the thief," he whispered. "But you know something you're afraid to say." The man's eyes widened, and he stepped back without meaning to. Then the Madman turned to the second suspect and studied him quietly. "Fear is dripping from your eyes. A truly guilty man often hides behind anger, not fear. You seem more frightened than wicked." The hall murmured in confusion. Finally, he stopped in front of the third man and stared at him for a long moment. The man tried to stare back, but there was a flare of irritation in his eyes. The Madman grinned. "Ah, here it is. Anger. A shield the guilty often use." The third man scoffed loudly. "You call that evidence? This is nonsense." The Madman shrugged. "Truth is a strange thing. Some people reveal it without speaking. The trick with the stick." Suddenly, the Madman clapped his hands. "Bring me a long wooden stick." The governor looked puzzled, but he nodded to his guards. A few moments later, a sturdy wooden staff was placed in the Madman's hands. He lifted it dramatically so everyone could see. "This stick has a secret," he declared. "When a guilty man touches it, his hand becomes shorter, even if only by a hair's width." The hall fell silent. The suspects exchanged nervous glances. The Madman continued. "One by one, each of you will place your hand on the stick. The innocent will touch it freely. The guilty will hesitate." The first man stepped forward and touched it immediately. The second man did the same, although his hand trembled. But when it was the third man's turn, he paused. Just for a moment. Just long enough. The hesitation was tiny, but unmistakable. The madman tapped the staff on the floor triumphantly. There, that moment of fear, only the guilty react that way. The hall exploded with whispers. Truth revealed. The governor approached the third suspect. Why did you hesitate? The man swallowed hard. Your stick, it might expose me, he blurted out, then froze as he realized what he had just confessed. The madman burst into laughter. Expose you? My friend, it is just a stick. The only trap here was in your own mind. Under the pressure of the moment, the third man broke down. Fine, I stole the gold. I thought the stick would betray me. Guards rushed forward to seize him as the entire hall stared in disbelief. Even the judge, who prided himself on his logic, whispered, How did he do that? The governor's offer. The governor turned to the madman, smiling for the first time that day. You solved a case that baffled us all. I want you to serve as my advisor, my solver of mysteries. Gasps filled the hall. A madman an advisor? But the madman simply shook his head. I cannot live inside palaces. Wisdom is like wind. It dies if you trap it. I belong to the streets, to the people who need me without knowing they do. The governor insisted. If you refuse a title, at least accept a reward. He gestured for a servant, who arrived carrying a heavy bag of gold. The madman chuckled softly. Gold? What would I do with it? Buy a cage for myself? No, thank you. He turned toward the judge instead. Justice is more than laws and scales. It requires eyes that see beyond fear and ears that hear what silence hides. Then he headed toward the exit. He paused and looked back at the governor. If ever you face a riddle too tangled for reason, look for me among the simple people, among those you call mad. For sometimes madness is only wisdom dressed in rags. He left the hall, his bare feet echoing softly against the stone floor. That day, the city discovered that truth does not always come from scholars, judges, or rulers, but sometimes from the one person everyone overlooks. And long after the thief was punished and the gold returned, the story of the madman's puzzle was told in every corner of the city, growing with each retelling like a legend that refused to die. Subscribe to our channel to receive a new story every day that carries wisdom and meaning.